in this 14th session, the topic of our discussion is today international recognition of Bangladesh genocide. I'm your moderator, Shahriar Kabir, president of the International Forum for Secular Bangladesh and Trial of the War Criminals of 1971, and we are also the co-host of this session. And in the panel, we have very eminent filmmaker and writer from Turkey, Mr. Ferhat Atif, and he's also the president of 21st Century Forum for Humanism, our sister organization in Turkey. And we already have social activist Ansar Ahmedullah from UK. He's the General Secretary of All European Forum for Secular Bangladesh, and that is Nirmul Committee. And we are expecting Mr. Mohsin Arishi, journalist, writer from Egypt. He is the president of Forum for Secular Egypt and Middle East. And I hope that he'll be connecting very soon. He's having some trouble getting connected. So in this forum, we are in this session, we are going to discuss about the necessity of recognition of genocide, particularly international recognition of Bangladesh genocide. And before we start our discussion, we'd like to watch a clipping of my recent film that is about Bangladesh genocide. As all you know that it was a Pakistani army junta and the occupation Pakistani army. They are responsible for committing genocide in Bangladesh during the Liberation War of 1971. But very recently, I made a documentary on the Pakistani citizens. Some of them, they condemned the genocide, they protested genocide even in 71, and for that matter, like Ahmed Salim, you'll be watching him, they were imprisoned, they were tortured by the military junta at that time. Even the young generation, they want to know about the genocide. The new generation is coming up in Pakistan. So while watching that, Pakistan establishment is denying the genocide of Bangladesh. Rather, they are saying that it was the Bangladeshi freedom fighters and the Indian army is responsible for committing genocide and killing innocent Pakistanis. But what the Pakistanis have to say, the same Pakistanis, what to say. Let us watch a part of this film, a clipping for the film. So can I ask Rubel to start the film?
Yes.
It's a small piece. Rubel?
Yes.
Please play the film.
In 1971, the Pakistani occupation army in Bangladesh killed 3 million innocent civilians. More than 200,000 by official account. Unofficially, close to 500,000 women were tortured and systematically raped by them. 10 million men, women, and children were forcibly driven out of their homeland to neighboring India, where they took refuge for months.
Who were excited and incited by a new theory and philosophy of Awami League.
Notwithstanding the denial of the Bangladesh genocide by the Pakistani establishment, some conscientious citizens of Pakistan voiced their protest against the wanton killings of fellow citizens in Bangladesh.
Genocide was committed by Pakistan army led by General Yahya Khan.
It was a huge genocide. It is not to be forgotten.
एयरपोर्ट पे ट्रक के पीछे में हम बैठे हुए थे और भी लोग थे तो चारों तरफ से गोलियां चल रही थीं और लाशें गिरी हुई थीं जो मैंने अपनी आंखों से देखी.
Whom we told every one of them that there is a possibility of our getting arrested, we distributed leaflets, plenty of leaflets.
Condemning the genocide?
Yes, condemning the genocide.
Islamic political leaders of both wings of Pakistan, Abul Ala Maududi, the founder of Jamaat-e-Islami, and Jamaat leaders from Bangladesh like Ghulam Azam tried to justify the genocide in the name of Islam. They declared that Pakistan was synonymous with Islam and it is a jihad duty to eliminate all Bengalis who waged war against Pakistan. Haider Farooq Maududi is the son of Abul Ala Maududi. He described how the killing squad of Al-Badr, set up by the Jamaat-e-Islami party, targeted the innocent civilian and intellectual leaders of East Pakistan.
सन 71 में 35 लाख इंसानों को उन्होंने कत्ल किया वहाँ, और जमात इस्लामी ने उसमें पूरा रोल अदा किया. इन्होंने फ़ौज के साथ मिलकर अल-बदर और शम्स बनाई.
On the history of Al-Badr, it starts from East Pakistan, from Bangladesh. Al-Badr was an offshoot of Jamaat-e-Islami and it was trained and financed by ISI.
Tell the Pakistani people about what happened during these 9 months in Bengal. Jahara Imam's Urdu version in publication in Pakistan brought new information for them, and they were astonished that they could not thought ever that such a brutality occurred and people were killed in lakhs, in millions.
The government of Pakistan not only denies any hand in the genocide, it's hired writers, author books that falsely depict Bengali freedom fighters and their friendly force of the Indian Army as being responsible for the mass killing in Bangladesh.
The denial from the state, which means successive governments, whether they were military governments or civilian democratically elected so-called governments, and the armed forces of Pakistan. First, the Hamudur Rahman Commission report was not allowed to be released. Then it was leaked, but it was heavily redacted. Then, of course, started this whole very intriguing series of books started being written. So there was Sharmila Bose, there was Yasmin Saikia to counter and rebut Sharmila Bose, and now there's Junaid Ahmed. One wonders who, one wonders why.
Sharmila Ghosh have very well established links with the Pakistani military.
In July 2017, two young Pakistani writers, Harun Khalid and Anam Zakaria, traveled to Bangladesh in order to find out more about the 1971 genocide.
Every day they used to bring all the army officers there. There I have had also tortured. This way continuously 8 months I was brutally raped.
Harun Khalid and Anam Zakaria spoke to the victims and survivors of the genocide.
As Bangladesh commemorated its Genocide Day this year on March 25th, an eerie silence loomed over Pakistan.
At times, listening to the recollections of some of the genocide survivors, young Anam Zakaria could not hold back her emotions.
At that time, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto should have apologized to the people of Bangladesh for the atrocities, genocides, and the killing of 3 million people. It is not a small thing.
Pakistani civil society has been demanding. There are many sane souls to our parliament, to our government of Pakistan, that they should pass resolution to beg apology to the people of Bangladesh for the genocide committed by Pakistan Army.
There's a lot of similarities between the genocide that took place in Bangladesh and what's taking place at present in Balochistan, because the Pakistani establishment, the Punjabi establishment, is using the same prototype, the same blueprint as they used in Bangladesh on Balochistan now.
The burden of the guilt of committing genocide is gradually becoming unbearable, not only for the establishment, but also for the people of Pakistan. The victims of the 1971 genocide and conscientious citizens of Pakistan expect that one day the Pakistani establishment will acknowledge the atrocities committed in 1971 and offer a formal apology to the people of Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, my friend. I'm extremely sorry some fault there, technical fault in this trailer. But the fact remains that even the Pakistani, the same Pakistani, they are now ready to acknowledge the genocide of Bangladesh, though the Pakistani establishment is not ready to accept it. So right now, I'd like to request Mr. Ahmedullah for his presentation. Mr. Ahmedullah, Ansar Ahmedullah is campaigning for the trial of the perpetrators of genocide for more than 3 decades, based in London, and he's leading our forum in Europe. And why it is, Ansar, I'd like to know that why it is so important to get the recognition of Bangladesh genocide from your perspective, from the Bangladeshi diaspora living in European countries or living in the West. Can you please explain to us? And your time is 10 to 12 minutes. Mr. Ahmedullah. Ansar Ahmedullah.
Thank you, Shahriar Bhai, and greetings to fellow panelist Farhat Atik from Turkey and all the attendees of the conference. As we approach the 26th of March this year, Bangladesh will be celebrating its golden jubilee of its independence. Unfortunately, it's also the 50th anniversary of Bangladesh's genocide. I was listening to your previous sessions, and I think it's without doubt that one can say the killings that took place in Bangladesh in 1971 was definitely a genocide. During the 9 months starting from March 1971 until the end of the war in December 1971, there were systematic killings of Bengali ethnic people. At the same time, they also targeted the Bengali minority religious group, the Hindus. And in addition, in your film, you've already mentioned the rape of Bengali women who were also kept as sex slaves throughout the war in various camps. Now, in order to justify genocide, or in order to, I guess, make it acceptable, the killings, the West Pakistani regime or the ruling elite, as a first step to mass killings, demonized the Bengali nation. The West Pakistanis looked down upon the people of East Pakistan, calling them a low-lying land of
Please get connected, Mr. Mohsen. Session is on.
Polluted the area with non-Muslim values. So this was a
please get connected.
Demonstration of dehumanization.
It should be over, though.
Yeah,
please.
The normal human revulsion against killing by equating the victims.
No, we are on the air. We are expecting
and
to
filth.
Just get connected. Please.
Obviously, the killing started on the 25th of March, which resulted in thousands of Bengalis killed in one single night. And on that night, the Pakistani military targeted university students, professors, mostly Hindus. And of course, over the next 9 months, the army conducted mass killings of able-bodied Hindu men. Though Hindus were specially targeted, the majority of the victims were ordinary Bengali Muslim villagers and slum dwellers who were caught unprepared during the Pakistani Army's sweeping spree of wanton killing, rape, and destruction. already mentioned raped. While the Bengali men were targets, the abduction and subsequent rape of women took place in camps over the 9 months. And they were also subject to hit and run rapes. Brown Miller describes the hit and run rapes as a brutal example of weapon of war, where the male relatives of the female victims were forced to witness the rape that was going on. And I guess the third phase of killing, or towards the end of the war in December, in fact, it was just 2 days before the war that the intellectuals were targeted by the Pakistani forces. And as the Bengali attendees are very much aware that Bengali intellectuals were rounded up, abducted from their homes in the hours of darkness, blindfolded, hands tied up, taken to killing fields and shot dead. In addition to these specific groups, the Pakistani army also targeted members of Awami League and their supporters, and of course, Bengali members of armed forces. As a child, I remember the night of 25th of March, waking up to see the entire sky lit up with fire and flame, because I at the time I was living in Motijil colony, a stone throw away from the Rajarbagh police camp. Obviously, it was a target of the Pakistani military. They attacked the Rajarbagh police camp. The Bengali police initially offered some resistance, but of course they were no match to the professional soldiers of the Pakistani military and the big guns that they had with them. In the end, the Pakistani military had set fire to the entire camp and ran it to the ground. And I think the same happened to the EPR camp in Pilkhana, now known as the BGB, who were also target of the Pakistani forces. Now, of course, Pakistan has never accepted the genocide committed by their forces. In the previous session, and I think in your film, there's a mention of a report commissioned by the Pakistan government itself, known as the Hamidur Rahman report, which in its report, it does state that, I mean, there is obviously denial, and they say some incidents did not take place, and at best, they were deliberately exaggerated for the purpose of maligning the Pakistani army in order to gain world sympathy. However, the report does recommend that the Pakistani government should take effective action to punish those who are responsible for those alleged excesses and atrocities. So it does fall short of saying genocide, but they do accept that excesses and atrocities were carried out by the Pakistani forces. Unfortunately, the world response was muted because I think the reality of the situation was, at the time, we were victim of the political reality. And of course, this was the time of the Cold War period, where the whole world was divided into US and USSR camp. So, after the war, Pakistan allies were predictably opposed to Bangladesh. And in fact, Pakistan launched a propaganda campaign to deny the existence of the genocide. Islamic countries were generally supportive of Pakistan, and so was China. And in fact, Henry Kissinger, an advisor to US President at the time, characterized the Pakistani atrocities as unwise and immoral, but never termed it to be genocidal. But of course, the acts does come under the UN Convention of Crime of Genocide of 1948, because acts were committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a racial group, i.e. the Bengalis, and a religious group, i.e. the Hindus. So, following the war, the international community responded generously in offering aid to the people of Bangladesh. But as mentioned before, due to political reasons, there were very little support in terms of bringing the perpetrators to justice. So we in the, in Europe and the UK have been campaigning for years to seek justice for those who had suffered violence at the hand of the Pakistani forces. And I think what I want to say is that since the international community, including the United Nations, failed us in 1971, it was up to us and Bangladesh as a nation to initiate its own trial in 2010. Unfortunately, instead of the world community supporting the trial, many international bodies were very critical of the various processes of the trial, which is obviously very disappointing. But I think in terms of what I would suggest.
Please conclude. Yes.
Yes, I'm coming to the conclusion. In terms of members of civil society, members of pressure group or a campaigning body, I think there is a certain limitation how much we can take the cause forward. There's a certain point, and in order to cross the last hurdle, I think this is where you need the intervention of the state itself. And I will just give you a couple of examples before concluding, or maybe just one example if we don't have enough time. So I'll give you a positive example. Bangladesh's Martyrs' Day is now observed and celebrated as International Mother Language Day. Now, this did not happen overnight. It was in fact initiated by a few Canadian Bengali expats who started the initiative, and they had been campaigning for a number of years. But it wasn't until the Bangladesh government, when they came on board, the partnership work between the Canadian diaspora and the Bangladesh High Commission in Canada, in Birmingham, in London, the embassy in Paris, worked together and in order to lobby UNESCO, who finally in 1999, recognized the day as International Mother Language Day in honor of the language martyrs, and also to
yeah, Mr. Ansar, please conclude.
Yes, to protect the linguistic diversity of the global community. So I think what I'm saying, the way forward is a partnership between Bangladesh government and the civil society, and of course the Bengali diaspora across the globe. I think if we can put in collective effort, we can definitely realize our objective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ansar. I'll respond to you later on. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Ferhat Atik, our second panelist. Mr. Ferhat Atik is a very eminent filmmaker from Turkey. His recent film, Psychology of Immigrant, got number of awards. I cannot remember. Ferhat might be telling about that. More than 24 awards, international award already he got for his film. And definitely this question of immigration, the refugee problem, that is also one of the major causes is that genocide continuing in different countries, starting from Myanmar or Syria or any other places. So Mr. Ferhat Atik is also a prolific writer, and my recent film, on Turkey, it was a joint venture, and it was produced by Mr. Ferhat Atik, and we are also looking forward to make more films, particularly on Syrian genocide and Rohingya genocide. So I would like to invite Mr. Ferhat Atik for his presentation. And Mr. Ferhat, your time is 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I thank Shehriar Kabir, Liberation, War Museum and Forum for Secular Bangladesh and Trial of War Criminals of 1971. Speaking to you is an important opportunity for me. Thank you very much. We cannot expect good people to understand genocide. No good person thinks of this barbarity. Therefore, we cannot understand. But the best people to tell the genocide are good people. People who will not slaughter other people. They best describe the genocide. Genocide should always be told, because once it happens, we learn about the possibility of it being live again. Genocide have a danger come from the future. I would like to talk about the word reversible. Reversible, a word that sometimes can be a narrative of regret. Reversible is very interesting word. Reversible means capable of returning to the original state, as you know. A word that sometimes can be a narrative, but this is the reality. Well, what does irreversible mean? What does irreversible mean? We have to think about it. We have witnessed that in time of history, they have suffered irreversible pain. We have seen people are dead, even humanity die. We are ashamed of human and humanity who did that. Massacres, pogroms, genocides, Holocaust. We didn't think it could be like that before they happened. But once they happened, we began to consider the possibility of being again. The pain of a genocide is not a thing of the past. The possibility for the reappearance is reflected in today and to the future. This is the reality, unfortunately. That's why we are here, because we don't want any future danger. We don't want genocide again. We don't want it forgotten. We want it not to happen again in the future. We want genocide to be remembered. Of course, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman is the founding father of the People's Republic of Bangladesh, as you know. He is popularly known under the title of Bangabadhu. I like this name. He served as the first president of Bangladesh, as you know. All dark nights reach the sunrise. The name of the son for Bangladesh was Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Bangabadhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Today, I express my gratitude to him because it opened the way for freedom and struggle for the people of Bengal. Humanity needs sunlight, like Mujibur Rahman in every period. We need that. Today, true way for the people of Bengal is walk without deviation of the road of Mujibur Rahman. I remember him with gratitude. I was born on a small island, on the island of Cyprus, one of the Mediterranean islands. This is a very small one. Cyprus has the last divided capital city in all the world. The name is of the city is in Turkish is Lefkosha.
Ferhat, can you tell us which year you were born?
Sorry?
The year, which year you were born?
Okay, I'm coming to them. Yeah. The name of the city in Turkish is Lefkosha. Lefkosia in Greek language and Nicosia is in English language. I was born the same year in the genocide of Bangladesh, 1971. We had a genocide in my country as well. Cyprus has two regions. The southern region belongs to Greek and Greek side, and the northern side region is the Turkish side. At the end of the 1963, Christian Greek people killed many Muslim Turkish people at the one night, unfortunately. 21st December. This night has a special name, Bloody Noel. Of course, this was a genocide. Most of my family members were killed in this genocide. That's why I have searched all genocides in the world. So I have tried to know everything about Bangladesh genocide for a long time. I have spent the last 12 years talking about genocide issue in genocide areas of the world. I gave lectures and a lot of conferences about it. And for years, I asked myself, why do people commit genocide against other people? This is very complicated questions. I have too many answers, but one of answer is very important for me. But the most important definition is that the humanity of those who killed people is dead. That the humanity of those who killed people is dead. It is extremely important that the genocide in Bangladesh is known, understood and accepted by the whole world. This is very important for humanity. Unless the suffering of the past is recorded and recognized by the human family, it cannot end. It always repeats. The world could not get enough of the genocides yet. What happened in the past, world wars, Cyprus, Holocaust, Algeria, Bangladesh, continues today in Myanmar, as we know, unfortunately. The evil is not enough, even in the 21st century. All our work is, of course, always to remind, to not forget genocides, to remind genocides and, of course, the Mujibur Rahman, to remind those who devote their lives. In 2019, I visited Mujibur Rahman's home in Dhaka. Shahriar Kabir knows this. I saw the swing in his garden that could never swing again. As I was experiencing the pain of that house, I understood better the importance and success of Mujibur Rahman. That was tragedy, of course, but this is very important and success of Mujibur Rahman. This is my experience. And I have to repeat again, I saw this swing in his garden that could never swing again. I greet everyone who lost their lives in the genocide with respect, especially Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's and family and all of Bengal people. They live in our hearts, of course. On this important day, I would like to announce to you that I want to write an international book about Mujibur Rahman. It is a human duty to condemn all genocides in the world. It is about not forget and never live again. Thank you very, very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Farhat Atiq. And I'm really grateful to you that you have decided to write a book on Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. And I would like to tell you that your Secretary General in Turkey, Shakil Reja Ifti, he has already decided to make a documentary film in Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and how he is viewed in Turkey, how the Turkish people, and definitely it should be started with you, his documentary. I must ask him that he will be the number one whom should be interviewed for this. So thank you very much, for a very important presentation. And may I ask the organizers whether we have able to connect Mr. Mohsin Arishi from Egypt? Is he linked with us? Mr. Mohsin Arishi?
Sorry, he didn't join.
Oh, he couldn't, but well, he tried hard. I just talked to him over phone. But let us, since we have some time, it is more than 50 to 60 minutes we have. Let's go to the participants. Is there any questions on this subject, international recognition of Bangladesh genocide? Any question from the participants?
Yes, sir. There is a questions from one of the audience.
Can you read out the questions?
Sure, sir. The question, here's a question. Is there any chance that Hindu genocide will be officially acknowledged in the 5th anniversary of genocide or independence, or it won't be able? Here, he also written, I'm asking in frustration because the fact of Hindu genocide is missing and increasing in denial in national discourse and apparently will lose its shares in our national narrative.
Well, in this morning session, while we were conducting this session 6, that is started with Mr. Mofidul Haq's comments on Bangladesh genocide, focusing on Hindu genocide. That is in my film, Journey to Justice. And definitely one of the major features of Bangladesh genocide is Hindu genocides. The Pakistani occupation army, they targeted the Hindus, and later they targeted the army leaders and the entire Bengali people, Bengali-speaking people. But some Bengalis, definitely they collaborated with the Pakistani army. Bengalis belong to Jamaat Islami, Islamist Muslim League, and other Islamist parties. They also branded the freedom fighters as Hindus, even those Muslims who were supporting the cause of Bangladesh, they were all branded as Hindus. And this is nothing new in the history of Pakistan. We have seen since the language movement, the Pakistani establishment always branded the people who were crying for democracy, who were crying for emancipation or provincial autonomy, all were branded as agent of India and Hindus. So in the Bangladeshi narratives of the rhetoric, this is very important feature. And definitely in 1971, it started with the Hindus, but later it is spread and entire Bengali people were targeted. And that is what Yahya Khan said before leaving Dhaka. He said, I want only the land. I don't like to see any people in this land. And in February 1971, while having a meeting with Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in Larkana, they just decided to kill 3 million people and everything would go okay. So when we talk about genocide, why they say that it's genocide? Genocide means to kill a particular community. It could be a religious community, it could be a political community, it could be an ethnic community like the Bengalis. So indeed, in every aspect, Bangladesh genocide, the killing of 1971, it was genocide by any definition. So definitely we acknowledge the brutality of the Hindus. And even if we see the demography of the refugees in India, out of 10 million, 7.2 million, they were Hindus, and they were forced to leave their motherland. So indeed, we acknowledge it, and definitely while campaigning the movement for the recognition of Bangladesh genocide, it will be one of our major issues that this is the way the religious group, particular religious group, was targeted during the genocide of Bangladesh. Thank you very much. The next question.
Sir, there is another question. we will be celebrating the 50 years of our liberation and as well as the genocide. Still, we haven't got the international recognition. Who should take the liability? Sir.
Yeah, the irony of the history of Bangladesh is that since the brutal assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, most of the time, it was in 1975, and most of the time this country was ruled by the pro-Pakistanis and the perpetrators of genocide directly or indirectly. Definitely the main perpetrators in Bangladesh, it was Jamaat-e-Islami and other Islamist parties. And who rehabilitated Jamaat-e-Islami in Bangladesh? It was Ziaur Rahman's BNP. Ziaur Rahman could be a freedom fighter, but his party and he himself, repealing the constitution, they allowed, they brought back the Jamaat-e-Islami into politics. And since then, we are watching this rise of Islamic militancy and growth of Islam, fundamentalism in the name of religion, and Pakistanization of our political societies. So that is one of the major problems. For many, many years, we couldn't talk about the genocide. The narrative of genocide were wiped out from the textbook and government narratives and everywhere. It was forbidden to talk about the genocide of Bangladesh. But now, finally, because of our wrong campaign, the present government, they have declared 25th March as a National Genocide Day, and even in the parliament, the resolution was adopted that now Bangladesh will move forward for obtaining the international recognition of Bangladesh genocide. But it is not very easy. The way Ansar mentioned that, we were able to succeed to get the recognition of 21st February as the International Mother Language Day. What I'd like to mention here that it is not as easy as getting recognition of 21st February because the Bangladesh genocide perpetrated by the Pakistan establishment, but at that time, Pakistan establishment was backed by America and China, two major superpowers, and as well as the so-called Islamic Ummah. They also supported the Pakistan establishment for committing genocide. So while we'll be seeking for the genocide, international genocide, recognition of international genocide, definitely we have to be very tactful and we have to create a public opinion in Bangladesh as well as in other parts of the world. So our forum has recently, it has decided to go for a signature campaign. So we have decided, since 3 million people have been killed, we have decided to collect 3 million signatures on a petition, and we like to distribute this petition among the governments and the member countries of the United Nations, as well as to the Secretary General of United Nations for the recognition. And definitely Bangladesh government and other friendly countries like India, Russia, and others who supported during the liberation war of Bangladesh or who condemned the genocide at that time. Definitely these countries will also support us for getting the international recognition of Bangladesh genocide, but it is a very difficult task. We have to work jointly. Government and the civil society should act jointly and should plan a program to get the international recognition of Bangladesh genocide. Thank you.
Sir, here is another question from an anonymous attendee. Why the government of Bangladesh supports the fundamentalist political groups in our country? Isn't it against the spirit of 1971 well?
Well, this is not directly related with this subject, topic of the session, but I'd like to mention that, well, the subsequent government, as I said, that since the brutal assassination of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, successive governments, they have rehabilitated those Islamists, the Islamist parties like Jamaat-e-Islami, Nizam-e-Islami, Muslim League, and others. And these formation of political parties in the name of religion, it was forbidden in our 1972 constitution. It was Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman who banned formation of religion-based political parties. But later, after his assassination, Ziaur Rahman lifted the ban. And since then, as I said, that the entire society, the way it has been radicalized since 1975, it is very difficult for the present government to tackle the situation. But again and again, we are asking the government to run the country, as Mr. Farhat Afif also mentioned it very categorically, being a genuine friend of Bangladesh. He also mentioned that Bangladesh should run on the spirit of the liberation war, on the philosophy of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman believed that there is no place for politics, there is no place for religion in politics or a state affair. That's why he banned formation of religion-based politics in Bangladesh. But we are also campaigning for that, and we are asking the government to ban the religion-based politics. But again, it will take time, you know. Over the years, society has been radicalized. The entire administration, they have infiltrated in every layer of the administration. So it will be difficult, but we are quite hopeful. We have, because of our movement, we were able to punish the perpetrators of genocide. The tribunal is still going on. And if we continue our campaign, definitely we'll be able to ban politics on the basis of religion in Bangladesh. Thank you. Next question.
So there is another question to Mr. Ansar Ahmedullah. Could you give us more details of your campaign for trials of the major perpetrators?
Can you get the question, Mr. Ahmed, Ansar Ahmedullah? Can you hear it?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm part of the overall campaign, which is incorporated in Bangladesh, and Shahriar Kabir Bhai, who's hosting this session, is the president of that campaign. We have been campaigning since 1992. Obviously, I won't be able to give you all the details here, but I can, following the session, I can send you literature that we have prepared for our campaign. Basically, it's in solidarity with the victims of the families who had suffered at the hands of the Pakistani military that we have been campaigning to seek justice. And it's due to our campaign that the Bangladesh government initiated the war crimes trial in 2010. And so far they have managed to put some of the local collaborators on trial. We are yet to bring the Pakistani High Command within the law of justice. It's something we're campaigning. But I think in order to do that, as the title says, that we need to get the world community to recognize that genocide was committed in Bangladesh in 1971. And the step forward would be, as the young person in the film said, that we need to tell the whole world what happened to the people of Bangladesh in 71. So we need to create awareness of the crimes that were committed against the people of Bangladesh. I think once we can do that, we should, have the cooperation of the world community, including various international bodies, to help and assist us in putting the main perpetrators on trial.
Thank you. Next question.
Sir, that is all about questions.
Okay, now let's, we have very few minutes to wind up the session. The very important issue raised by Mr. Farhat Afif, that why it is important to get the recognition of Bangladesh genocide, as Mr. Farhat Afif mentioned. Basically, it is to prevent future genocide. If genocides are not acknowledged, if it is not recognized, definitely the perpetrators of genocide will be encouraged to commit further genocide. What is happening in Pakistan right now? You have seen in my film one Baloch leader. He said that the ongoing Baloch genocide in Pakistan is quite similar with Bangladesh genocide. Well, maybe Bangladesh genocide was very much overt, and Baloch genocide is not that much overt. It is a covert genocide, but it is a genocide. There is no doubt about it. And most of the Baloch leaders who have protested, and they were forced to leave Pakistan, and now most of them, they're taking refuge in different European countries, including UK. I interviewed this guy in UK, the Baloch leader. So this is one that to prevent future genocide, as well as to provide justice to the victims of genocide. 3 million people were killed, and their family members are still waiting for justice. If you do not recognize the genocide, how come you are going to provide justice to the victims of the genocide? If a single person has been killed in any country, definitely there is a court to try the killer. And 3 million people have been killed, and the perpetrators will go unpunished. It cannot be accepted by the, civilized society. So if we claim to be a civilized society, civilized nation, definitely you have to accept or acknowledge genocide, whether it is committed in Bangladesh or in neighboring countries, in Myanmar or in Syria, whatever country it may be, all the genocides should be recognized. And the way we have started the trial, definitely, it is also a kind of recognition of the genocide, that what we have started now. And another important point, the denial, as I said, that it encouraged the perpetrators. The unique example is the present Pakistan. The Pakistani state, since day one, they are denying the genocide of Bangladesh. So what they gain out of that? The entire people in Pakistan, the democratic, freedom-loving people, the democratic people, or the people who are campaigning for secular democracy or human rights, definitely they have become now target of the state brutality. And now we are also campaigning for them as well. So this is the importance of recognition of any genocide. And Bangladesh genocide, definitely it is one of the most horrendous genocide in the history. And since Second World War, since the Holocaust of Second World War, we have not seen such a horrendous genocide that was taken place in Bangladesh. If you just look into the geographical map, the area of Bangladesh only 56,000 square miles. And the span of the time was only 9 months. But the Holocaust took place in 3 continents, and it was expanded into 5 years. So Holocaust, starting from the Holocaust, even the Rwandan genocide have been recognized by the United Nations and Western countries. Why not Bangladesh? So now time has come. And as I said, I always said that the perpetrators of Bangladesh genocide, they are very much linked with the Islamic militancy or terrorism in the name of Islam. And this Jamaat-e-Islami is very much linked with the global terrorist network of ISIS or Al-Qaeda. So that is, they're continuing the genocide, be it in Bangladesh or in Middle East or in African countries. So that is also very important, to recognize the genocide and try the perpetrators of genocide. So with this word, I would like to conclude this session. I'd like to thank all the panelists. Thank you very much, Mr. Ferhat Atik. Thank you very much, Mr. Ansar Ahmedullah, for your presentation and joining this, enriching the session. And thank you, the panelists or the participants who have listened to this session. Thank you very much. I'd like to conclude this session. Goodbye.